Welcome to Modern Musings, conversations with the maiden, mother, and crone. Looking at ourselves and the world through the lens of the 21st century. Hi, and we're back. I hope our listeners had a nice and calm Memorial Day weekend. My name is Amber Garvin, and I'm here with my two co-hosts, Cindy Murray and Kristen Hessler.
Hi.
Hello.
And today on our podcast, we are talking about astrology and what that means. So, I am a pretty big fan of astrology. I have followed it most of my life. And for those of you that don't know what astrology is, it is the divination of the supposed influences of the stars and planets on human affairs and terrestrial events by their positions and aspects. So basically, you look at your zodiac sign and you look at your horoscope through the zodiac sign, and it's basically a way that you can explain characteristics of humans using the stars and the planets. And I've always thought that it was a very fun thing to do, to look at your horoscope. And I even have a bunch of books on astrology. It has always been a fascination of mine throughout my life. And especially if you look at, people's personalities based on their birthday and their sign. Like people that are Sagittarius, which is my sign. Even though I'm a bit on the cusp between Scorpio and Sagittarius, I call myself a Scorpitarius. I have those certain aspects to go with a little bit of Scorpio, but mainly Sagittarius. It definitely, I believe it does describe me. What do you guys think?
Oh, I totally agree. When I read I too have been a big fan of astrology, particularly, from when I was like maybe junior high or high school. My mother was a fan of it. She bought Linda Goodman's Sun Signs, which is one of the preeminent books on the topic from that time. And I read that book cover to cover multiple times over and compared her descriptions of the various zodiac signs to people I knew that were born under those signs. And I can say without a doubt that the sign for Sagittarius, which I am also a Sagittarius, being born in the first half of December, I feel that I am a Sagittarius, and it describes me quite aptly. And then at the same time, I can look at the other signs and say, no, that does not describe me at all. So I don't have an explanation for it. I don't necessarily always think that like all the horoscopes that are out there are true or anything like that. But I do believe that there is some truth in the personality traits that some people are born with based on their sun sign. And I just see that because I know so many people that are born under Sagittarius that have those same traits, but I can look at a Cancer or a Pisces and they do not have those same traits. And likewise, I can look at my husband who is a Pisces and my son who is a Pisces, and they are very similar in personality traits, and they fit with that description, but they do not fit with the other descriptions. And that's why, I think there's some truth to it. And I also look at the fact that we know that our moon, the gravitational pull of our moon, affects the tides on Earth. We know that it affects humans and animals, like certain animals mate based on that moon. We know that animals mate based on seasonal changes. There's all kinds of things that are tied to the suns, the moons, the seasons. So why is it so far-fetched to think that our personalities and traits would develop under those same circumstances, that they would have an effect on us? I even know, nurses and police officers who say, yes, very definitely, when there is a full moon, the crazies come out of the woodwork or whatever.
As a teacher, I can attest to that also, that the kids are a little bit crazier on definitely when the moon is full. And I even have a couple of friends that absolutely cannot get any sleep when there's a full moon outside.
Mm-hmm. So it makes sense to me that the position of the moon when you're born, the position of the sun when you're born could have some kind of gravitational pull. Maybe the science behind it is that the gravitational pulls changes the development of the eggs in utero or whatever, and
interesting.
thought. We don't know that that's not what it is, so maybe it's something like that. But I just know that my brother and my sister were both Cancers, which it means that they're born towards the end of June and the early part of July. And Cancer is typically a homebody type person. And they are both that homebody type. They're just as happy sitting at home watching a movie with their family, more so than going out to a nightclub or going out to a restaurant or going to visit friends or doing anything social. Their draw is to be at home with their family. And for me, as a Sagittarius, some of the typical traits are, kind of a fiery temple. It is a fire sign. So you have a little bit of a fiery temper. You enjoy the outdoors.
Impulsive.
Yeah, and like to be the center of attention to some extent. And I find that to be true of me and many other Sagittarius born people. So I feel like it describes me very well.
I feel like the same way about Scorpio. I remember those same books because you had them growing up.
I do.
So I also grew up reading those exact same books. And to me, it wasn't an option of it being fictional or fantasy or anything like that. It was in a book and it was real to me. As a kid reading those books, it was in a book, so it was real. They were on the same shelf with the other fact books. They weren't, we had two bookshelves growing up. There was the facts and fiction.
Yeah, right.
We had two bookshelves, and it was on the same bookshelf with the encyclopedia and the dictionary. And so what I read was truth. And my entire life, I have believed in horoscopes, zodiacs, astrology, numerology. All of that stuff to me is fact. And I remember opening it up and reading and discovering that I was a Scorpion, and even as a child recognizing those traits and going, yeah, that's me. And as I develop as an adult, my personality has changed, into an adult, and I still see those same things. Even more so, I'm like, wow, I really am a Scorpio.
Right. I do. And you agree with me that Stephen and Dad are both
And
Pisces.
you know what? I have a friend who is a Cancer. She's actually a Cancer Gemini cusp. And she is So she has like the Gemini, like the dual personalities, and then she has the Cancer personality. So she almost has like the triad there, but she's definitely a homebody too. So that's kind of funny.
So here I have a description of the sun in Sagittarius, and you, Kristen, look at these and say whether you believe these are me or Amber or both. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We have idealistic, optimistic, dependable, open-minded, friendly, honest, and versatile. But they can also be tactless, irresponsible, showy, boastful, self-righteous, arrogant, quarrelsome.
Oh.
Ooh, yeah. Fanatical, dogmatic, and dictatorial.
So the first half of those are me, and the last half of those are you.
What's really funny is that's also my husband is also Sagittarius, and I feel like, although
but he's friendly, he's honest, he's versatile. He is idealistic.
Oh yeah,
He's also optimistic. Mostly dependable. I think he's pretty dependable if he knows exactly what he's supposed to do.
Oh yeah, he's very dependable.
And the open-minded, maybe to some extent, but sometimes not.
He's not bullheaded, but
no. I don't think of him as arrogant or quarrelsome though. Or dogmatic and dictatorial. So he may have some ascending traits or something like that changes that. Sagittarians like any work where foresight and a willingness to take a chance is offered.
Yes.
Definitely. Foresight, that planning thing. Yeah. While at the same time they try to avoid detailed work. That probably is not so much me. It depends on what the detail
would
is.
Very much so be Travis. He does not like detailed
No,
stuff.
you're right. Sagittarians are usually outspoken.
Yes.
Sometimes to the point of bluntness.
Yes.
Simply blurting out their ideas and opinions.
Yes.
This is Travis, me, Amber.
Oh, God.
And opinions is due to their never-ending search for truth and wisdom. Absolutely so.
Yes.
Others think Sagittarians are pretty tactless. Yes.
Yes.
And the statement that truth hurts fits their way of thinking.
Yes.
And I do. I often say
Truth hurts.
things without it. Yeah. Regardless of their undiplomatic remarks, others instinctively feel as if the Sagittarian means them no real harm. I do. I get that. They're, I think so. And is only interested in raising their consciousness. And that really is something that I'm interested in. Sagittarians love the outdoors, large animals, nature, and sports. Definitely.
Ish.
Some
That's
have
my
reckless gambling tendencies. I don't think I do on that one. Well, I don't know.
Both
Maybe
of
not
my
with,
parents were Sagittarius, and they were both gamblers.
I gamble. I don't always have the opportunity to gamble, so that may change that a little. But I do gamble with other things. Let's see.
My husband gambles with time.
Yes, I do that too. And will bet it all on the drop of a hat. Not so much. Travel and even long walks appeal to them because, yeah, I definitely think so too. So let me see if there's anything else with that. It's not opening all the way yet.
I mean, it also really depends. Like Travis and Cindy and I are all different, so it also really depends on the day you were born as well. Because I'm very close to the cusp. Like I said, I have Scorpio traits as well as Sagittarius traits. And people born on, my birthday's November 28th. People born on November 28th could be are completely different than people born on, say, November 24th or
Right. And it also
December
depends
16th.
on what year, because one of the things that is affected, it's not just the day you were born or the month you were born. There's
Year
a
and
whole
time as
year
well.
and
You're
time of
born,
day,
yeah.
because they're taking, when you get like a full birth chart, a natal chart, they take into account all of the stars, the planets' alignments, and that like where was the moon and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to remember what mine is. I think I'm a Virgo ascending, and I can't remember what my moon sign is, but those things also play a part in your personality. So you might be mostly Sagittarius, but have some traits from the moon, and have some other traits, from other things, And I have done my chart before. I have my chart, and I did not bring it with me today to this recording. So, like I said, I don't remember what my moon sign was, and I just vaguely think that I was a Scorpio for my ascending, but and I was trying to look up. A good friend of mine gave me a great website where you can get a free natal chart, and I can't find the address now, so I will get that address, and I will link it on the blog, so you should be able to link over there right now, and it should be on there, but by the time that this goes to air, but I don't have it on me right now, but that kind of gave me it gives the full chart. It tells you where everything is, and I do not fully understand how all those little things affect the chart, but I think they do. I think it's really fascinating, and I keep wanting to learn more about it. That there's just so much to learn. The Linda Goodman sun signs, I think I've got a link for that on the blog that we mentioned earlier. That's a really great source if you just want to get to know the traits. And she also wrote another book called Love Signs, and that one talked about the different combinations. What if Sagittarius was with a Pisces, and what that relationship would look like. And I think a lot of that stuff is pretty accurate too. So she doesn't say don't get with this person, but it's kind of like these are the things you should look out for if you are with that person, because these are the personality traits that are going to clash or that'll work well together or whatever. Do y'all have anything to add, Kristen?
I think that one of the things, if you really want to dig deep, you want to make sure that you can get an idea of the time that you were born. I know a lot of people don't know if they don't have that access to that detail. Right.
I think some of the older birth certificates, not the ones that the state files. Well, your actual medical records may have that on there as well if you can get a hold of those. But the hospital birth certificate often has that time of birth on it. I don't believe that the Texas official, the one that you get from the vital statistics, I don't think
it doesn't, because I have one of those.
Yeah,
and
I don't think it has the time.
No.
I didn't think so either. But I believe that the one that I had from the hospital when I was born did. And that's often the one that has your little footprints on it or whatever. A lot of times those have it on there. But that is really helpful in creating your birth chart, because they take into account exactly where everything was at the time you were born.
Read mine. Go look my Scorpio up.
Okay, let me get over there. Hang on.
Do y'all sun signs always talk about sex, or is it just mine?
No,
mine's always Scorpios, love and sex.
Oh, well, yeah.
Because that's a big part of my sign is
it
sexuality.
It is. Like, see, Sagittarius is always like adventure and spontaneity.
Yes.
And not being able to stay, dual personality, not being able to stay in one place at one time, extreme ADHD.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay.
Like not being able to sit still, like always moving, always grooving,
Mm-hmm.
always blah, 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 blah.
Yes, that is us. Totally. Always. Yes. Okay, so hang on. I pulled up for Kristen, your sun in Scorpio. This is what it tells. I did a birth chart calculator. I'm not accessing the whole birth chart, but here's the beginning descriptor. 2 animals are used to represent Scorpio, the eagle and the scorpion. The eagle is capable of reaching great heights because he has mastered his lower nature and overcome his passions and the temptations of the sensual sphere. The eagle has risen above the physical world because he has regenerated himself. The scorpion, however, represents those who have not regenerated their thoughts and actions and are still living degenerate lives. You degenerate, you. They use their cunning and strike when least expected. Mm-hmm. These are the ones who satisfy their passions regardless of consequences. Scorpios, in general, are ambitious, efficient, courageous, resourceful, and intuitive. But they can also be jealous, sarcastic, resentful, stubborn, possessive, and vindictive. Scorpio people enjoy impossible tasks. Oh my, who does that sound like? Let me see. Oh, wait. They like to work. They like work that demands continued, determined effort and intense concentration. They are born detectives. Scorpio gives a strong will and determination to accomplish anything undertaken. Scorpios possess an analytical mind, strong intuition, reasoning powers, perception, long-range planning ability, magnetism, and energy. Totally you. So the long-range power or the long-range planning ability, we were just talking about that on Sunday, how you and I together, together we don't just day plan, we like year long plan.
Yeah.
So that's one of our things. And when it talks about the impossible tasks or whatever, I think back to when you were a Girl Scout working on your Gold Award, and people told you one of the projects that you wanted to do was host a drug-free rave for the high school students, and all these people kept telling you, you can't do that, you can't do that. And guess what? That was like incentive to you to do that impossible task. That's exactly what you did. Not once, but three times. So drug-free rave with high school bands at the rec center in our town, and it was all done as a donation for Santa Cops, donating toys and or money to donate to the Santa Cops so they could buy toys and give toys and sporting equipment to underprivileged children. And so that was, that was that impossible task. So ambitious, efficient, courageous, resourceful, very intuitive. I see you as very intuitive. And it was talking about the quick sting, you have a quick temper sometimes, and your stinger is right there at the ready to get people when you yes
revengeful yes
vengeful yes
hold grudges yes
but the very positive things too, because efficient, ambitious, courageous, no one has ever accused you of being a chicken, I don't think, because you are very courageous and you faced a lot of things. And you're also very resourceful, I find. So I think these are very fitting of you. And,
Yeah, definitely.
and, I can't look at this and say, these are characteristics of me. Because I mean, there's like one or two things, but it's not, I couldn't use this to describe your brother either.
Right.
He's totally not this. He's not jealous. He may be sometimes a little sarcastic, but not like you are. He is not resentful. He is not stubborn, possessive, or vindictive in any way, shape, or form. He does not enjoy impossible tasks. And he does not like work that demands continued determined effort and intense concentration.
What's really interesting is the Scorpio seems like a really fiery and hot, hot-headed, tempery, but it's not a fire. It's water.
It is a water sign.
I like to think of it like lava.
Oh.
Boiling water.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. And the Sagittarius is actually the fire sign.
I'm very laid back and chill, and but I also have a fiery temper. Don't get me mad.
I do have a fiery temper.
Y'all can attest that I get mad in like 2 seconds flat, and then like
I don't get mad, I get even.
Yeah. You're vindictive, and I have like a big fire of madness.
Yeah, me too. And sometimes it's a scorched earth thing, So yeah, I think that, and like I say, I look at other people like my husband and my son. They're both Pisces, and the Pisces is the fish, and I see them and their personality is just the fish in the water and just going with the flow, and they're very, very happy-go-lucky, and the sun signs are kind of a maturity thing, like if you look at them in the life cycles of a human, Aries is the start of the year for the signs, and Aries is like the baby. The Aries is very I don't want to say self-centered, but self-concentrated. They're very aware of their own self. And so everything, just like a baby, I'm hungry. I need to pee, or I wet my bed, my diaper, or whatever. And so they're really, really concentrated on that. And then you keep, you go through the maturity through the years, and you get to like the, Capricorn is often described as the old goat, even when they're young. They are old in their old souls, and they're like the old goat. And then you keep working through it, and you get to the Pisces, and that is the end of life cycle. And you think about older people, the personality of really, really old people, like 100-year-old people. They're very happy with everything. I've lived a good life. I'm just fulfilled. They're fulfilled, and they go through life just accepting things, and they realize that all these things that we nitpick about don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. And so that's their personality, and they're not concerned about these little things that bother all the rest of us. They're just happy, and I think that's very fitting of them.
On the flip side of this, there are some people out there that seem to have been born on the wrong time, on the wrong date. Like, their birthdays don't describe them at all. And it's very interesting as well. Although, like, I know it's not an exact science, but for the most part, like, it's pretty accurate.
Well, and I wonder, would have to wonder, like the people that you're saying their sun sign doesn't describe them at all. Have you looked at their moon sign or their ascending signs or any of that maybe those are heavily influenced
Maybe
by
so, yeah.
by something else. I'm just curious about that because
That's true, yeah.
I how much influence does that have, and could that account for that? I'm really curious about them because, like I say, most of the people that I know seem to fit in those descriptions for the most part. Now, I'm not saying every trait is present.
Yeah,
Obviously,
it's not an exact thing.
It's not.
And it's not, I mean,
And
it
some
could be
of them
a...
drive your behaviors and some of them don't.
Right. Well, and again, if your sun sign is in Sagittarius and your moon sign is in Cancer, then you might be a Sagittarius who doesn't want to be the star of the show and who would rather stay at home and watch movies with the family.
Right.
And likewise, you might have a Gemini who doesn't have a dual personality because they're one of the Capricorn or something, a more stoic moon sign or something like that alter, it's like a modifier on that character, and maybe it changes it. And I don't know if that explains it enough to explain away the ones like you're talking about that are different. But I'd be curious to know, who those people were, and to do a natal chart on them or something, and find out how much it affected them.
I would think
that's an interesting.
If your astrology is kind of, if you were to say it's set in stone, you can't account for the external. I'm just saying, if it was set in stone, like if that was end all be all, you still can't account for all of the one-offs, environmental.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Environmental
nurture versus nature, and things like that.
And think about like someone who goes through a life-changing event that literally changes their personality. Remember, we had a friend who had suffered, a brain injury due to a medical ailment that changed
that
their
can totally
personality.
Change people's personality.
Even like for my grandmother who has dementia, her dementia brings out character traits that were just small little character traits in her before, but now they are very prominent.
Yes,
because of her dementia,
and other traits of her personality have just been
diminished,
completely diminished. So
it changes from male to female as well.
That's correct. Yeah,
like hormonal changes or dehormonal changes. It really just depends.
I agree. So you really can't explain everything away with it or whatever. So, there's a lot of things that go into it, I believe, as well. But I think it's a fascinating topic, and I think there's a lot more to be discovered about it, and to, like I said, I've grown up knowing about it, but I read those books cover to cover, but I couldn't tell you half of what I absorbed at that time, because I read it as a youth, and I read it again as a young adult, but it's been probably 20 years since I even cracked that book open. So I've forgotten, more than I thought I could remember, so there's still a lot to go there that I don't know, and I can't explain everything away.
Okay, I do have a question for you ladies, and of course our readers as well, if they want to continue the conversation on this. Astrology has been around for a really long time, millions of years, and like up until probably recently, not within the last 100 years or so, it was considered a science, and now it's more considered pseudoscience, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you were talking about, Cindy, the scientific aspects of it. What about you, Kristen? Do you think that it is scientific, or do you think it's more pseudoscience? Like fake science?
I think that pseudoscience is not fake science. It is just something that cannot be explained yet.
Yet. I like that word.
Yet.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not saying that everything that's out there that's of the metaphysical or whatever is real. But obviously there are things that we don't know. There are things that we don't understand. There are things we are still learning and will continue to learn because we are not evolved enough as humans to understand everything. We still don't know even a tenth of how the human mind works. So how can we be sure that we know everything is thus? And so pseudoscience, I don't like that.
I laugh in the face of pseudoscience.
Well, I just don't. I don't like that word. I don't like the word pseudoscience because the prefix pseudo implies that it's fake, not that it doesn't. To me, pseudo is not correct. It should be more. I'm not sure what word would be better suited, but that word
alternate science,
alternative maybe, or some word that explains that it's not explained. It's we don't know yet or something. It's partially science but partially not science, because the word pseudo implies that it is fake, a sham, not real. And we don't know that it's not real. It's just that it's not explained. So I would prefer a word like semi-science because it is based on science, but it can't be proven at this point. So just like people have personalities, we believe people have souls. Does that mean that saying that there is a soul is fake? Because you could call that pseudoscience because we can't prove that there is a soul, right? So I like the idea of calling it a semi-science because it is something that we think might exist, but we don't have any proof because we are not there yet. We haven't developed our scientific understanding to be able to explain it thoroughly and prove it or disprove it. It not only has it not been proven, it hasn't been disproven either.
Right. We're still trying to figure out gender beyond physical sex.
Right. I mean,
right, and understanding personality traits with gender and
right, and we only understand a small percentage of the way the brain works. So,
right.
Maybe once we figure out how the brain works, maybe then we'll be able to prove or disprove things like astrology's the way it plays onto our personality or whatever. Now, do I think that it tells the future? Is it divination?
Oh, that's a completely different topic.
Right. So, but a lot of people equate astrology with divination but it's not. We're just talking about the capacity to explain those personality traits.
And that's essentially like divination is talking about telling the future.
Using your intuitive tools.
Yeah. And so astrology is essentially the past because it's like about your birth.
But people use horoscopes to divine the future. This is what's going to happen to you based on what the stars are doing. So that is a form of divination. Ish, it is.
Yeah.
Horoscopes is a part of astrology.
Yeah, it's just like it's a small part, but yeah.
But that's what I'm getting at. I'm not sure I fully buy into that.
Well,
Maybe,
I mean, who
maybe,
writes this horoscope? Like,
well, that's true. You don't
you
know.
you
Somebody
don't know
could
who
be just
writes
making that stuff up.
It's
You don't
kind of
know.
like fortune cookies. You know what I
Right.
mean? You
Somebody's-
open it up and like
Somebody in
some
the factory, and,
yeah,
yeah,
wrote
is
the
just
fortune
writing
cookie.
these things out, and sticking them in there. But I, my thought is that there may be some aspect to the fortune telling, maybe, if we could explain how the astrology affects the brain and the personality, then we might be able to take that information and use the knowledge of how the stars align or whatever on your personality and how that would affect you in order to tell your future or whatever. Kristen.
Yes, so you were talking about, horoscopes. I didn't want to interrupt you, but the people who write horoscopes are professional astrologers, just like they always have been. 100 years ago, we were talking about it being fact,
Or assumed to be
an
fact,
astrologer was an important part of, some higher level leaders,
Right. Oh, yeah.
They relied on their astrologers to provide them information to make important decisions.
Even in the Bible, there are astrologers.
Right.
The 3 wise men were astrologers who looked at the positions of the planets and whatever and saw the star and knew that foretold.
Right. And they actually use the knowledge of the zodiac, the stars, the actual astrological events that occur in our time and the lunar calendar to make those determinations.
Right,
so
right.
They have, like a
right. So
formula.
based on it's based on how it interacts with your personality
Right.
trait signs to determine what your horoscope means. So like I say, I don't know how much I rely on that, but I don't really read my horoscope, so I obviously don't rely on it too much at all, but I don't know. I need to go back. I would like to go back. There were some like at the change of the millennium, there were lots of horoscopes that came out. This is what the new millennium will mean for Sagittarius or for Scorpio or whatever. And I would like to look back and see how accurate some of that might be. I know I saved some of those a long time ago, like a decade horoscope that came out like in 1980, that would say this is what the 80s are going to be like for you. Mm-hmm. And I wish I could go back and find those. I know they're somewhere. I saved them somewhere. But go back and look at that and see how accurate it was. That would, I would be curious to know that. I just don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. And we've talked about that before too, I talked about during our March Luck of the Irish thing, when I did my blog, I talked about superstitions and whether or not I believe them, because a lot of times we go through the motions of doing certain things, and it doesn't necessarily mean that we believe it, but we just kind of go through that motion because we've been taught to go through that motion. So is believing in the horoscope also going through that motion of doing that, or is it something that we actually do you really, really believe that it's true? I don't know. What do you think?
I think it is all relative.
Yeah,
so time and space is relative. We have this whole concept of horoscopes, but that is based on planet Earth and this time.
Right.
If there is, think about this outside of the box thought. If there is life on other planets, our horoscopes are irrelevant. Our astrological
Absolutely. Yeah, they don't,
thoughts,
they mean nothing.
The
Life
stars
is
in
what
the
you make of
sky
it.
in Earth's vision are completely different than some other planet halfway across the galaxy.
Right.
Well, I mean, it's just like, say, you read your horoscope and it says that your life path is going this way. You read your tarot cards and it says that your life path is going this way, or something that may happen to you in this day at this time.
Mm-hmm.
But then the next moment you make a decision and your life goes on a completely different path. So therefore you may not follow the path of that horoscope. That's
true.
going to happen.
Another
Or the tarot card, you know,
Right.
It's just like, yes, it goes with the alignment of the planets and the sun, and that's how that astrologers are able to predict these things. And as far as like the astrological events that happen each month, that's how they predict these things. But like the weather in Texas, things move and change, and
Well, and meteorologists can't even correctly predict the weather.
exactly.
So what, how can you expect them to correctly predict a whole year's worth of future or whatever,
Yeah, exactly.
I agree. I don't think it's precise. And I think a lot of things can change it. And sometimes things are speeded up and sometimes they're slowed down. And sometimes it doesn't do what you think it's going to do. And, does that mean it's fake?
No.
I don't think so. I don't think it's fake.
I mean, some events have been predicted in the past,
Mm-hmm.
so don't discount things that are predicted for the future. It might not turn out like exactly how it's predicted, like in the Bible or whatever. It might not turn out that way, but it could turn out that way in some way. It might not be
Mhm.
exact, but
Right.
it could happen.
Yeah. And I see that. I think that as well, because sometimes like going back to the meteorologists, they might say, okay, we're going to have bad weather. We're going to have thunderstorms and we're expecting 3 inches of rain and it's going to hit these areas and we're probably going to have some hail and maybe some tornadoes. And then the whole storm blows through and it's like we get a few sprinkles and then, and it's gone. Because they just don't know. Or maybe it dumps all of the rain in the county next to us and then there's no rain left in the clouds by the time it gets to us. So, they just can't know that. Or maybe this other Gulf wind comes up and blows the whole storm north of us and it just passes us by. So, they just don't know those things and they start predicting them, and the closer that they get to those, what they would call the event horizon or whatever, the more predictable it becomes, but that doesn't make it infallible. And just because they don't correctly do it or predict it or whatever, doesn't mean it's fake. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means that it's fallible. It's changeable.
And that's true. And it's funny because meteorology is considered actual science, and then astrology is considered quote unquote pseudoscience.
Exactly. So, yeah.
So that it's really interesting how you just broke that down and like, hey, all of your predictions are whatever.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah.
and they're looking at patterns that change like within an instant. The Earth always revolves around the sun exactly the same, and
Right.
the moon does its exact same thing. Those things don't change. And
Right.
that's the
Exactly.
interesting thing about astronomy, is that stuff really doesn't change.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Exactly the same, but yet, we're making these predictions like we think this is what's going to happen. The moon is going to keep rotating.
Yeah.
I mean, theoretically, like that, those things do change, but it takes bajillions of badillions
very
Yes.
slow.
of years.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the sun. It's slowly getting larger and swelling.
Right.
But, I mean, it's going to take a really long time
Right,
for
right.
it to become
Whereas
a black hole.
whereas the weather can change.
In a
In an
blink of
instant.
an eye.
Yeah, yeah. And yet we call that science, and we put all our faith in that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I mean, even farmers' almanacs predict what the weather is going to do
Speaking
way
of
ahead of time.
Putting faith in it. So one of the traits, with the Scorpio is being vindictive, right? Or, say for instance that early on in my young, age, I saw that was a trait with myself. And I may not have seen that I was possibly even vindictive at all. Maybe didn't even know what that word meant, but I knew I was vindictive because I believed it, because I was told that I was.
Like a self-fulfilling
Could I
prophecy.
exactly? So knowing that I have a vindictive trait, do I surrender to that
Mhm.
bad trait, that bad habit,
Mhm.
and allow myself to be overcome with vindictiveness because it's who I am?
Right, right. Yeah, there's
I mean, that's the impulsivity of Sagittarius. Do I give in to my impulses? Because this tells me, oh, you're impulsive, so you should be impulsive.
And so you go, well, I'm impulsive, so what can I do about it?
Yeah,
Right.
or I have no filter, so blank, 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 blank.
I don't have to have a filter. Yeah.
I don't have to have a filter. Well, in life.
Or why bother filtering because I can't?
Well,
Yeah.
That's what
now
it is.
that's an excuse.
Or everybody
That is
expects me to be this way.
That is the ego talking. I can have a filter. I do it every day.
Yes,
I
you
mean,
do.
I walk into class and I want to say something, but I don't. I just smile and say, okay,
Good morning,
it's
class.
good morning, class.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I'm going against my better nature.
Better nature.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Awesome.
All right, guys. So let's wrap this up, and I want to hear from our listeners. So follow us on social media and check out our Facebook group, MMC Chat, and let us know what you think of astrology. And do you follow the sun signs? Do you follow astrology? Do you look at your horoscope every day? Aside from that, we've got a fun topic coming up next week that Kristen is going to share with us.
Yeah, so it's going to be kind of like a show and tell.
Without the show.
Yeah, without the show.
Yeah, because it's a
Just all
podcast.
tell.
We could make a video about it, maybe.
Each of us have, lots of little hobbies, and we all are collectors of certain things. So I thought it would be fun for us to share some of the things that we collect. And I know we had talked about being hoarders before in one of our previous podcasts.
What do I
And,
collect?
talked about some of the things that we love around our house,
Can I say I collect hobbies?
right?
You really do.
I collect items on my to-do list.
Yeah, I do that too.
So we'll be talking about that next week on the blog and the podcast. So be sure you check us out next week for a fun and lighthearted chit chat from us.
Awesome.
Yes, definitely.
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
Well, there are some special things that I want to do. I want to thank our readers and our listeners who come back every week and listen to our podcast and read our blogs. We love you. And send us a message, like our podcast. Give us some suggestions of what kind of podcast you want to hear in the future. And I also want to thank Red Door Studios and Creative Audio Tech for our equipment and our music. And I also want to thank my co-hosts because I love them so much. since I'm thanking everybody.
Why, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah,
And you're welcome.
I love being here every week and doing this. It's I think we've talked about it a lot. This is a lifelong dream for me to be able to share and do, and I just love this. I love you guys. I love our listeners and our readers too, because you give us this opportunity to do this thing, and
So give us a shout out and subscribe. We want to hear from you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.